All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're traveling to the extreme eastern edge of Georgia, to a place where nature absolutely reigns supreme. We're going to explore the history, the breathtaking natural beauty, and the incredible biodiversity of the Lagodekhi Protected Areas. You see, this isn't just a story about a forest. It's a story of survival, a bit of tragic romance, and one man's lifelong obsession with protecting a literal paradise. I mean, just look at the sheer, raw power of this landscape. That's the Ninoskhevi Waterfall, crashing down right through this dense, pristine wilderness. This is actually one of the oldest protected areas in the entire Caucasus region, featuring untouched primeval forests that honestly make you feel like you're stepping back into the dawn of time. And to truly wrap our heads around how vibrant this ecosystem is, we just need to look at a few quick numbers. 1,500. That is the staggering number of distinct plant species currently thriving right here in this reserve. It's an absolute botanical treasure trove. 38. That's how many diverse species of wild animals are wandering through these woods right now. We're talking roe deer, Caucasian turs, and even brown bears. And 7. Now this is the really crucial one. 7 completely endemic species. These are living things like the famous Mlokosiewicz peony and the Lagodekhi snowdrop that exist in Lagodekhi and literally nowhere else on planet Earth. But, you have to wonder, how did this isolated pocket of extreme biodiversity remain so perfectly untouched? Well, to answer that, we have to travel back in time. Which brings us to Chapter 1, the Polish officer's exile, from soldier to savior. So meet the very unlikely hero of our explainer today, Ludwik Mlokosiewicz. Born into a wealthy, aristocratic military family in Warsaw, Ludwik was a bit of a rebel. He fought in the Polish National Liberation Movement, got himself sentenced to death by Tsarist Russia, and only survived because his influential family managed to get his sentence reduced to exile. So, in 1853, he shipped off to the Caucasus as an unreliable officer. But instead of letting this exile break him, he completely fell in love with the land. He even started using local plants to heal wounded soldiers and locals, which earned him the nickname Znachar, meaning the healer. If we trace this timeline, it's quite a journey. Born in 1831, exiled by 1853, he ends up building a stone house near the forest and just dedicates his entire life to studying the local flora and fauna. By 1889, realizing just how fragile this ecosystem was, he submitted the very first petition to the Russian Imperial Academy of Sciences, practically begging them to turn the gorge into an official reserve. Tragically, he passed away during an expedition in 1909, so he didn't get to see the finish line. It wasn't until 3 years later, in 1912, that his dream finally became a reality, and the reserve was officially established. Moving on to Part 2, Unique Discoveries in Flora, Fauna, and Folklore.
Ludwig's decades in the woods weren't just about dryly cataloging species. They were filled with these fascinating micro-stories. Take Julia's Primrose, for example. The story goes that a Russian botanist named Nikolai Kuznetsov came out to Lagodekhi for an expedition, took one look at Ludwig's daughter, Julia, and immediately fell in love. While they were trekking through the forest, they stumbled upon a brand new species of primrose. Hopelessly smitten, Kuznetsov named it Julia. The romance itself, totally unrequited and tragic. But Julia's primrose, it still blooms in the reserve today.
Then, you've got the much darker local folklore surrounding Nino's gorge. Legend has it that a 15-year-old girl named Nino was kidnapped. She somehow managed to escape her captors, but while fleeing frantically across the river, she slipped on a rock and tragically drowned. The locals eventually named the river and the surrounding gorge after her. It's a pretty stark reminder of just how wild and untamed this region really is. But getting back to the science for a second, let's talk about the Caucasian grouse. Ludwik was technically an amateur, sure, but the guy had an incredibly sharp eye. He knew the grouse back in his native Poland very well, and when he saw the grouse hanging around in Lagodekhi, he instantly realized they were entirely different. So he carefully prepared a few specimens and shipped them all the way to a prominent biology professor back in Poland just to confirm his suspicions. And the response he got back? It was the absolute ultimate validation for an amateur naturalist. The letter simply said, "You have discovered a new species." That bird was officially named the Caucasian grouse, also known today in the scientific community as Mlokosiewicz's grouse. This leads us to Part 3, the first reserve, and a century of protection. So Ludwik made all these incredible discoveries, but for sure his most lasting legacy was his fight to protect the land itself. As the reserve's fame grew over the years, it attracted some pretty high-profile visitors, leading to this legendary and honestly hilarious tale involving an Iranian prince, a local forester, and a giant gold medal-winning wolf skull. During the Soviet era, Iranian Crown Prince Pahlavi came out to hunt. He was accompanied by a local forester named Akaki. They both shot a mountain goat, but, awkwardly enough, Akaki's goat was way bigger. The prince was so deeply offended by this that he completely canceled his plan to give Akaki a golden gun as a gift and instead just handed him a silver cigarette case. But Akaki definitely had the last laugh. A massive wolf skull he hunted later on actually won a gold medal in Hungary because the judges initially thought it belonged to a bear. Aside from the fun folklore, the actual growth of the reserve since those early days is just astounding. When Ludwik's dream finally came true in 1912, the protected area covered 3,500 hectares. Today, it spans over 24,000 hectares, with a massive 17,000 hectares of that being completely untouched primeval forest. Which brings us to our final section, Lagodekhi Today, where the legacy continues. So what does all of this mean for us right now? How is Ludwik's legacy holding up? Well, the region has seen a massive ecotourism boom. Just look at this jump, from around 2,600 visitors in 2008 to over 4,200 by 2009. People are absolutely flocking to experience the sheer beauty of the Ninoskhevi Waterfall and that incredible biodiversity we were talking about earlier. It is now one of the most visited natural spaces in the entire country. But keeping this place safe, that is not an easy job. The modern rangers face a totally grueling daily grind. We're talking patrolling this massive, rugged terrain on foot or on horseback. They face freezing rain and snow, track wild animals for population counts, and often have to sleep right under the open sky or take shelter in mountain caves. They are literally out there risking their lives daily to maintain the pristine condition of this wilderness. Which leaves us with a pretty heavy question to chew on. Ludwik Mlokosiewicz saved this wilderness a century ago. How are we going to protect it for the next 100 years? As tourism continues to grow and the climate inevitably shifts, the responsibility passes directly to us to ensure that the endemic snowdrops, the Caucasian grouse, and those ancient trees remain undisturbed for generations to come. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today, and I really hope this sparks your curiosity to dive even deeper into the incredible world of conservation.